Hello, listeners. Welcome to this episode of The Balanced Mind, where we are looking at the importance of being happy. The Balanced Mind is with myself, Kim Searle, and co-host Richard Brewing, where we journey through the intersection of behavioural, mental, and emotional well-being to uncover how we can profoundly impact our professional outcomes. Welcome, Richard. Thank you so much for joining me again today.
Hi, Kim. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. So happiness then, or addressing your the importance of being happy. What does happy mean for you? Big question.
Oh, yeah. There's a
That
good
is a big
question.
question. Even as I
It's
asked it, I'm thinking, whoa, how would I answer that one?
okay. You may prep for that one then. It's the things that give you that nice warm feeling, that put a smile on your face.
Hmm,
Yeah, that I probably can't overcomplicate it any more than that. I think
yeah,
it's massively, massively important. There's not that much that's more important because if you're happy, then that pretty much means that everything else that matters is working okay.
yeah,
So
I agree. That sounds very good. For me, as you're answering it, the one thing that I talk about with my people is doing more of what you love. And being happy is a sign that you've got that balance right. There is more going on that you love doing in your world than there's not. So yeah,
I
the
think it's the
same.
best litmus test that you can have. You
Mm,
know, it was probably the most important. I don't know whether I'd call it a lesson or more of an awakening, but in terms of my business life, it was the most important threshold to cross because I spent many years, climbing the career ladder, and then I got to a point where I thought I'd reached the top of the ladder and realised it wasn't what I thought it was. So, like many
mm,
on this call, stepped out and set up our own businesses. My businesses have always been with Rowena, who's my wife and my business partner, and we did that very successfully, but weren't happy with the results because it wasn't what we'd always dreamed of, even if we didn't necessarily know what we had dreamed of. And we
mm,
reached a point in our careers back in about 2002, 2003, where we just sat down one day and gone, this isn't working for us. It's great on paper and it looks, we've got a good firm, I've got a great reputation, all rest of it, but it doesn't feel like we always imagined it would feel. So we sat down and rewrote the business plan and realized that the most important thing was being happy. And therefore,
mm,
we will do what we do in our business that makes us happy. We will work with clients who we're happy to work with. We'll have a team who are happy to work with, and conversely, are happy to work with us. We'll do the things that we're happy doing, and we won't worry about all the standard stuff that we focus on in terms of profit and fees and all that shit. On the basis, if we're happy, they're probably going to be okay, and that's how life has turned out. And I do I do an exercise when I start working with a new firm. I do an exercise where I get them to talk about the firm they want to be, and I get them to describe that firm in single words. And they'll usually come up with a list of 20 to 30 words. And apart from in one occasion over the years,
mm.
there's always been one word that's missing. And I've always said to them, look, this is your firm, it's your list. I'm not going to interfere, but there is one word that isn't on that list at the moment that I am going to insist on. And then we go through an exercise where I try and get them to guess the word. And now I'm going, it begins with H. And then eventually someone goes happy. And I go, yeah. And then they all go, oh, of course. Yeah.
Because
It's
that's not part of what business has been in the
no,
past, is it? It's not
no.
about being happy. There's lots of other adjectives that might be close to being happy, but it's not happy. And I think business has got a bit of a serious bent to it, really.
Well, it's almost like, being successful in business makes you happy. My flip side is being happy makes you successful in business. Yeah. And I think it's a golden rule that we've applied ever since. And it's just, why not?
Mm,
If you're trying to make a decision, which is the decision that makes you happy?
I love that. Do you know, it's interesting. And I know we've talked about it before. One of the things that I like to understand is what's important to somebody. And not everything that's important to them is about making them happy. So I always pick up on the ones that are likely under pressure to backfire on them. But actually, maybe when looking at what's important to you is to understand the value that it's bringing you personally. Now, that things may be important to you, but they may not be important about you. If you know, there's a very subtle
Yeah.
difference in that language. And there's we do not think about ourselves enough. And so consequently, the happiness that people will talk about will be about making other people happy. Well, and you? Are you happy? Oh, yes, I'm happy making them happy. Are you? Is that really what makes you happy? Not playing with your dog or your children? Sorry, not necessarily the order is important there, by the way. Just a little caveat there. I had a troublesome dog just before the podcast started, but it's playing with them, having spending time with your partner, on holiday maybe that must make you happy. This is a different sort of happy, isn't it? It's a deeper happy than just what your job, which is okay, is not necessarily making you happy. And now I'm wandering, so I'm going to ask you to help fish me out there, please, Richard.
Well, it's we talk a lot, don't we, about the fact that there aren't magic solutions to what we, in any business, there aren't magic solutions. You can't just press a button and fix your problems. But I do think that happy is a magic word. If it can change the nature of the business, it can change the nature of the client relationships. If you start asking a client what would make them happy, you're into a whole different conversation. Now, okay, for 5 minutes, you've got a freaked out client because you've never done this before. And I thought we were going to talk about accounts and tax. But actually, what would make you happy? Once you get into a serious conversation about that, you start looking at the priorities very differently. You start looking into different areas. The thing is, we get very frustrated, don't we, as advisors, because we can't get clients to engage with us as we'd like to. We can't necessarily get team members to engage as we'd like to. But if at the core of that is what makes them happy, they're going to engage. And it's just once you've got over the almost like the fear of introducing a word into the conversation that you haven't done before, and then once you've got over the next 5 minutes of almost like embarrassed flippancy, where everyone, if you said to a client, what would make you happy? And they'll go, oh, you not charging me, for instance. It's like, okay, let's move on. But once you've got through that into a proper conversation and understanding about what makes you happy, what makes them happy, you're in a very, very different world. And to then bring it back to the reality, having re-established different priorities, that's where you can then really engage. And certainly from our own, business just got a lot simpler once we use this as a basic test. It's not, don't get me wrong, you can't, if I've got to, let's just say we've got to make a team member redundant, for instance, that is not going to make me happy. There isn't a solution there that makes me happy. But within the wider context of what we're doing, it can still make the decision relevant, and I can still test. For instance, I'm not going to be happy, but the first thing for me is, have I done absolutely everything within my power to not have to do this?
Yes.
Is there anything more we can do? Because I certainly won't be happy with myself if I thought, you just didn't work on that hard enough. Have I done everything I possibly can to help that team member beyond the decision? Because again, if I haven't, I'm not happy with myself. So it's still relevant. It's not that we just go, whistle through life just doing the,
No.
oh, let's spend a load of money because it'll make us happy. Because actually, we know it won't. But it's those what will make us happy in this business. What will make us happy in this client relationship? What will make us happy with those? It's a fundamental. Being happy is a fundamental of life, isn't it? What is the point otherwise?
Some
When
people struggle with it though, don't they?
Well, they do, and I know there's a lot of sort of. I mean, there's a chemical side to being happy, which you'll understand better than me. What's happening inside the head and the triggers that can make us happy. And I know we can be made, sounds and smells and touches and those sort of things can help make us happy. But I think if we put a desire to be happy at the heart of what we do, that's a good place for us to start everything from. It's not, as accountants, we put numbers at the heart. How much money do you want to make? How much tax do you want to save? How big do you want your business to be? That, why would any of them make them happier? Yeah,
Yeah, it's
what
superficial happiness, isn't it?
it
Because
is,
they
isn't it?
say money can't make you happy. It's you've got to have that fundamental ability internally. What I loved is what you said is at the heart of everything. And I think um the heart is very downplayed in our society. It's associated with obviously the basics, keeping you alive. Hello. Love, yes, but it's also about connection. And what people may not realize, and I don't know all the details around it, but the heart has as many neural pathways or endings as the brain does in terms of how it responds to the world around it. It's got a really magnetic ability to attract and repel others around us. And if we can tap into the bits that make us happy, we can start to draw more of it towards us. So isn't that amazing? And
Yeah,
if we
it is.
can realize that the heart is, in all honesty, the more powerful organ than the brain. The brain is really just the taskmaster, the person who has to do the actions and make the decisions. But if the heart's behind it, oh my God, is it easy? If the heart buys into what you're doing, i.e., you're happy and you love it, the two things that we've both brought to the table here, the head will just be able to get it done because two out of the three have all bought into what you want to do. And that happiness will just follow really, really easily. So it's not neural pathways, it's I think it's nerve and I don't know. The heart's got more of something that makes it a consciousness in and of itself, which is more powerful than the brain. I'll have to look that
I,
up for another podcast.
I think it. I know in our last podcast when we were talking about confidence, and you were talking about sort of capturing those moments when you were confident and
Mm,
how did they feel and what have you. I think that definitely is the case with happiness, isn't it? That
yes,
because when you we say you feel happy, don't you? And you do. It is a feeling.
it
It's there's
is.
something inside you that gives you this, that's really nice. It's a really, warm, fuzzy feeling. And to be able to, to capture that and go, that's what I want as much as possible. Yeah, because we all get that. We're all very familiar with that, that sinking feeling in the pit of our stomach. And it's weird how these feelings hit different parts of our body, aren't they? But that Sunday night, Monday morning, problem coming up, you've got a feeling in the pit of your stomach and it
Mm,
ain't nice. But when you get something nice, when you're happy, when you do something good, you get a very different warm feeling, don't you? And it's almost like, okay, so you have a choice, because I do believe for most things in life we have a choice. You can either make the choice of trying to find those warm feelings more often,
mm,
or putting up with those negative, you know, painful feelings a lot of the time.
mm.
So why not flip your life around and go, well, that's what we'll strive for. Therefore, let's put that, at the heart of our business, is it fixing problems? Or at the heart of our business, is it making us happy? Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's interesting, isn't it?
we maybe deal with exactly the same scenario, but we're just coming at it from a completely different perspective. Yeah,
Mm,
if you want to fix a problem with a client, sometimes you can spend hours and hours doing it. Sometimes what makes you happy is binning that client. Hey, let's just do that. It's
absolutely.
what
Yeah.
is it that makes you happy? What is it that makes the team happy? What is it that makes the client happy? It changes the conversation, and it
I
changes
like
it
that.
puts it the positive side of the line, doesn't it, as opposed to the negative side of the line. We might
Mm.
end up doing the same things, but our motivation is entirely different.
And motivation, just for our listeners' benefit, is another one of those drivers that can come and go. So the more we can focus on things that we can control, i.e. the decision to focus on, what makes us happy and, what that might mean, the more we can control what motivation will do for us. So the driver will just naturally be there. I must admit, I've spent years being in work, and there have been times when I've really loved it and other times when I've just loathed it. And I don't know whether I've said this on this podcast or somewhere else, because I'm talking a lot about values at the moment. I went to see somebody when I had to go back to get a job after my last business went went kaput. And I hated the job. Now, normally I know that the first 3 months you're just bedding in, you don't know anyone, they don't know the processes, la la la. 6 months, you're starting to understand what your job is about and how you're beginning to influence the organization. And I usually thought by 12 months you should be, feet under the table, one of the old ones. And it just didn't happen. And I'd been there probably about 2 years, and it was just like, this is not changing. This is not good, and I don't like it. It was cumbersome. I had to go to Bracknell, which is no great shakes, but it was an hour, and I didn't like it as much as when I used to go to Slough, which was a bit grim, along the M4 there. And I just couldn't understand it. So I went to see somebody, and they did a values exercise on me, or with me, I should say. And at the end of it, she said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Oh my God." I said, "You've just described my job, and I've never seen it." And all that was a change in perspective on something that didn't change overnight, but in that session, complete 180-degree change. I had flexibility. I was a project manager, so I could work on our own site, on customer site, and occasionally from home. I had freedom to make choices about how that program rolled out, or that project. I had the freedom to decide how I was chasing people and what I was going to do during my day. Hello, who wouldn't want that? People. I was working with people all the time, from, the receptionist as you walked in through to, some of the more senior people within the client's business. And I had lots of learning. I like learning. And it just converted everything for me. And because I had been looking at this job, and I'd been down in the pits of the job and how grim it had been. And then I'd done this exercise, and it was like, whoa, hold on a moment. It's bringing me all the things that make me happy. Freedom, flexibility, people, learning, and some other things as well. And I do think it can be as simple as that. For people who are listening to this, who do not believe they can change the way they see the world, you just might need a bit of guidance.
Yeah, I think and we'll talk about this a lot. We've talked about it in the past, we'll talk about it in the future, but it's that thing about having a job. And I think, what we're talking about here is actually changing your perspective on
Exactly.
that job. Yeah, because we talked last time, didn't we, about looking, making sure you identify your wins and recognize your wins, and don't just get on with the job all the time. You hear that phrase, don't you? Just get on with the job. And actually that does nothing for us.
No.
Now, if as an accountant, as a bookkeeper, I've said many times, it's always going to be a high pressure job. The nature of what we do, it's, we have deadlines, we have compliance, we are agency style businesses, we deal with multiple clients. So it's always going to be a high pressure job. If you're not enjoying it, find something simple, find something easier, go and get a different job. That's always my advice. It can be an amazing job. And I know I get laughed at as an accountant. What seriously, being an accountant can be an amazing job. It can be an amazing job. It is an amazing job. It's what we do with it that's the difference. And to talk, if you can create work that you are really happy with, but you've just got to change that's where you've got to understand what makes you happy and why it makes you happy. And then you've got to change your perspective on your job, because the simplest of conversations with clients can either be just delivering a piece of work, just a job, or it can be an engagement that you're really happy with and the client's really happy. One of the first conversations we would have with a client every year had nothing to do with tax, nothing to do with accounts. It was always about, let's talk about holidays, and not, have you had a nice holiday, but when's your holiday this year? When are you going away with the family? How are you going to do it? How are we going to? And invariably they go, I've not got anything planned. Right, well, let's get something planned in then. Because if we wait, it won't happen. So let's plan it in. Let's talk about how we can prepare for it. Let's look at how we can manage your work around it and all the rest of it. And then they go away and have 2 weeks holiday with the family and have a fantastic time and come back and go, that was brilliant. And then next year it's like, okay, we need to plan holidays again, don't we? There's a conversation to make us all happy.
Definitely, definitely. Do you know what I love about people who are happy as well? Um, is they radiate it. I've talked about the heart being magnetic. It will pull and it will push. And if you are happy with what you're doing, those around you will be drawn to you magnetically, because that's what the heart does. And when they're drawn to you, and I'm not just talking, the people you work with, but your clients, they'll want to be with you. They'll want to talk with you because being with you makes them feel happy.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is it's almost like they're feeding off the energy. They're not, but they are lifted by your energy and the way that you are. And it's easy being with you. You can be with some, let's be honest, and you come away and you think, oh, I'm done now. That was tiring because they've been hard work, and that's, it is what it is. But when you're with somebody who is happy, they are radiating this happiness, and they will share their happiness with you in some way. There could be a whole different set of ways that they can do that. And everybody can pick up on it and be lifted by it. So in some ways, it's a responsibility to be happy when you're with your clients, when you're with your team, when you are with your family, because it does rub off and people will love being with you more and more. And isn't that what we want? I think when we're talking about business, yes, because you want people to keep coming back. And I think that for me is the bigger importance for me because of where I work, but that's the bigger importance of being happy as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think as a professional advisor, we have a responsibility to be obviously to know our stuff, but to be honest, to be positive, to be proactive, to be pleasant, you know, to be happy. I just we owe it to our clients, we owe it to our colleagues, and we owe it to ourselves.
Yeah.
It's you can change your mood, can't you? Yeah, I do think mood is something that we decide. We can decide to be miserable, we can decide to be happy. Because there's always something to be happy about. There's always something to be miserable about if you want to look hard enough.
Yeah.
Look, yeah, I mean, frankly, we've all got enough experience of having really tough times and all the rest of it. I'm not talking about extremes here, but it's just that, going on a Monday morning, just come on, let's. You can go in with a smile or you can go in with a frown. That's your choice. It doesn't change the work that's to be done that day.
No, it doesn't.
But it changes your attitude towards it and the attitude of everyone around you.
And I think that's important. It can change the attitude around you, particularly if you are the one who's running your business. You are the business, even though we might not think so for some people. But you are the business. You are the one that's setting the moral compass, the culture, the attitude. You are the role model that sets your business up where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And if you're not, and you're one of the people who are doing the work within a business, this is where leaders are made, isn't it? Because leaders are the ones who will be happy, will be able to. And when we talk about happy, we're not talking laughy, jokey, all that good stuff.
No.
It's just that they're positive and upbeat, and in fact had a quick look. It's where they are they can be contented even. A feeling of pleasure and contentment is what it's saying. But for the purposes today, contented in who you are and what you do. And I think the who you are is a good starting point. But that's where leaders come from. They're comfortable with who they are and they can be who they are and be happy, which means others will start to be drawn to them. So you don't even have to be running the business to be the leader. You can just be who you are.
Yeah, and we are who we are. That there's no escaping that fact.
No,
And
that's no.
therefore, I talk a lot about be yourself, but just you on a good day. That's all we ask. Just be you on a good day every day.
Yeah.
That's what you, your colleagues, your clients are entitled to, and that's what we all sign up for.
Mm.
Of course, within that, there could be all sorts of things going on. And that's where we can have entirely different conversations about how you deal with those. But you don't have to be miserable. You can, if I say strive for happiness, it makes it sound like it's too hard to find. Yeah, there are things that we
Mm.
can that can make us happy every day. Not the weather at the moment, but there are things that can make us happy every day. And it's just again like the competence thing. Let's reflect on those. It's okay to put happiness at the front of the agenda. It's it's a
Mm.
life thing. Without getting religious about it, the one thing we know for certain is that we have one life. Be happy with it.
Yeah, because it's of your making. Let's
Mm.
be honest. You, the royal you. We all make our lives what it is, and if it's not right, this is why it's important to make sure that you are looking at what's going on for you. I remember years ago somebody was talking about and it was marriage specific, but the principle will hold true as I talk about it. Talked about marriage should only be on contracts basis because he'd had not had a good couple of marriages and it was okay. I never could see how that works because you've got too much emotional content. But the principle of that contract so that you could review, the review bit being the key thing, where are you now? And what are you enjoying? What are you liking? I think that's a really important thing, that whole
Mm.
idea of reviewing. And most of us do it. I've always been a big one with year end or the end of the year, New Year's goals and all that. It's only been the last couple of years I've been less inclined to do them for various reasons, but I'd still like to review where I've been and what sort of things might be coming up. I just don't set the goals on the back of them. So maybe if you're not feeling it, it doesn't feel right for you. Maybe it's time to have a bit of a period of reflection on that and ask yourself some tough questions. If you're not in a place where you feel happy, what is it that's dragging you down? Who in your world do you look up to, and who in your world is dragging you down? And what can you do about it? Because we can only ever control us, and it will never be anything about the other person. It will just be the things that you've learned from them, that maybe they're always miserable. Well, if somebody else is miserable and you work with them 24/7, you're going to drag down as well, aren't you? So yeah, how do you deal with that? That's a topic of another conversation, I feel. Much bigger topic. But yeah, so for me, I think reviewing if you're not feeling it and understanding what needs to change is so important. Well, we haven't done goals, I don't think, but maybe we'll look at that. We've done vision.
Mm. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have goals on at another time to
I
look at.
think just putting it in as a almost like a number one rule. I mean, happiness is such a wide topic. At the one hand, I am so happy if I see a client, have positive change as a consequence of the work we've done with them. That's amazing.
Mm,
At the other end of the scale, yeah, obviously with family and health and all that is a massive part of it. At the other end of the scale, there is a little coffee shop in a little town in Spain that makes the best chocolate cake in the world ever. And to sit there with a cortado and eat that, I'm only allowed one every trip because it's so rich, but it's just that makes me happy. Yeah,
I'd
happiness is
sneak
like
out and have another one, quite frankly, Richard.
no, because then I wouldn't be quite so happy because then I know I'm cheating on myself.
Ah!
But but you get happiness is it can happen in a moment. It can be a achievement of a long-term gain. It's there all around us if we look for it, isn't it?
Mm,
And particularly if we say it's my rule. Actually, I'm not going to do that because I'm not happy doing that. Yeah,
mm.
I'm going to do that because I'm happy doing that, and I don't care. I think as long as we are being totally honest with ourselves, if we are doing things in a way that makes us happy, so that means that it's ticking all our boxes when it comes to ethics and values and all the rest of it. If we're being completely opposite with ourselves, all we can do is strive to do what makes us happy. The rest of the world can then decide whether that works for them or not. That's up to them.
Exactly. They're not, it's not our business, is it?
No, we're not judged. We're not having them judge our happiness. The fact that you said it earlier, the fact that I make them happy doesn't by default make me happy.
Mm,
But I'd like to think that if I make myself happy and I'm being honest about it, that it will influence their happiness.
yeah. And you've summarized this episode very beautifully. I think not much else to add on to that. Thank you so much, Richard. Your wisdom is always shining through. So thank you. And listeners, I hope you've got something from that. Any questions, please do get in touch. We're always opening to hear the feedback that goes on. And so for the next episode, we'll be looking at why 2 ears and 1 mouth is more valuable for you, or works as a ratio is actually the title, but we'll get that sorted. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.